Alright guys, back again with another little demonstration of what else I've been occupied with, and aside from the Autel Sept. These are Necron Immortals, as you can probably tell. I have custom built them in case you're wondering about the weird looking arms at the moment. I don't really like doing a lot of the base model stuff. It gets kind of boring after a while, and since it's Kill Team, I can mix and match and do all kinds of crazy stuff with them and not get overwhelmed by 100 of the same thing. So, without further ado, this is the one I've come up with. No, the paint is not done yet, but the build is. That's the important thing. I know the base is pretty boring, but, I'll work with that later. Probably wondering why those cables look so weird compared to what you might be used to on an Immortal with these kinds of weapons. That's because it's actual wiring, in fact. I got really bored and creative, and I decided to make the wires, because I didn't like the way they set, since, I like to build my own. As you can see, I've got some glue marks up here, and it looks a little funky over there on the end of the cable. Sorry about that, I can't really focus that well, apparently. But the overall build is done. I'm going to work with that a little bit later, maybe add some paint to make it look like it's maybe warped or exploding, or it's an extra kind of plasma cartridge, something to that effect. Not entirely sure yet, but the overall gist of it is there. I took two different kinds of cable that I've just scrapped from an old computer part, measured them out enough to make them fit. It didn't work so well, as you can see from the awkward angles of those edges there. Yeah, you can get a better view that way. It works enough, and I'll get away with it, which is why, like I said, I'm going to try and paint over it, make it look slightly different. I did overlearn from that mistake, and I glued the cables together in their little triage, and then I glued them to the gun. Now you might notice the bodies are painted, the guns are not. I did that on purpose. I'm going to block these off when I go to prime the guns. Probably should have primed them beforehand, but that might have caused some issues with the paint. I did put some sticky tack over the end of the cables before I primed them, so they would stick better. What I wanted to do was paint the body, and then I'll paint the back end of the gun, and I'll worry about the rest of it later, but that way I can get them playable. Kind of like what I did with this guy. I wasn't entirely sure where the weapon was going to fit, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to worry about any awkward-looking gray spots where it was otherwise pretty-looking, and then maybe work on some shading from there. So, I did that with all three of them, as you can tell, or four of them. And then onto the next one here, I might have goofed a little bit, but I'm sure I'll make it fit when I go to put the gun in place. The idea is that I'll just kind of have extra slack on this one, no big deal. This guy, it won't be nearly as extra, it'll actually be a lot less, but it'll still work. I did dry fit these two beforehand, so it'll work enough. Thirdly, I wanted to show you that it is, in fact, actual wiring. Yes, they are plastic and metal wire, so needless to say, I am not using plastic glue for this. I am using CA glue. As you can see, maybe, there we go. As you can see, I cut off the end of it. Now this one I still have to shave down first, otherwise this is not going to work. But what I'll have to do is I'll have to glue the three of those, just like the other three, and then after that's dry, shave off a little bit of the end, just to hold them in place, and glue them to here. As I learned with the first one, it's a huge pain in the ass. Would I recommend doing this for a regular 40k army? Absolutely not. It's way too complicated unless you really want to go over the top with it. I personally kind of feel like these give a little bit of an extra feeling towards the models. I feel like it can make them look a little better. Like I said, they're not going to look like they normally would with holding their weapons. I could even go so far as to make one of them holding it upright instead of actually at attention and ready to shoot something. But they're Necron. I don't feel like they probably do that much. Either way, though, it is pretty fun. It is pretty cool. It really sucks, and I'm probably never going to do this after these four again. It was kind of not worth it. Going back to my first one here with my paint job, that has already been a corrected mistake with these others. Like I said, gluing it and everything the way I'm doing now, so that'll make a bit of a difference there. But it still sucks, and it's an easy mistake to screw up. Other than that, paint jobs came out pretty cool. I know a lot of people don't usually like that mold line that they leave when you put the two halves of the body together, but I kind of dig it for the Kill Team. It makes it more distinct this way. I'll probably end up painting the other halves of the shoulder pads like a rusted metal color or something like that. I don't know yet, but at least I kind of like it. And yes, I am aware that normally with this kind of paint job, the red on the sides of the head would go over the face as well. I'm thinking about making that a bone color, in fact. Almost like a mask or something, but we'll see. The important thing here is the build itself. Once again, I don't actually recommend doing this on a large scale. These 4 were hell enough, but if you do it, it's the same process on the back and front. Glue your 3 ends to the tailbone there, or the spine, whatever you want to call it, and then glue them together at the base of the cables, and then attach them to the gun. That is the easiest way to do it, without making that globby mess there, or without supergluing your fingers to the pieces. And let me tell you, from all the errors I've had doing this in the past few hours, you will rip those cables apart every single time if your fingers get stuck to any of them except the large one. It really sucks, and it's super annoying. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoy. Hope this helps on something cool to do, or it helps to avoid ever doing this. All in all, getting one of these guys put together just to physically look like that took me probably about 2 hours with all the shaving, with all the extra junk to try and figure it out. Now that I know it, I can do it in about 10 minutes, but it still sucks. It's still really difficult. The only thing it's really good for is making one model look extra cooler than it does, but you got to really put a lot of work into it. So if it's worth it to you, awesome. If not, definitely something to avoid. Thanks, guys.